There we go. Welcome, everyone. I'm Michael McCarthy, your instructor for the Blockchain Nano course, Section 2. I'm glad to say that we only have 9 or 10 students in class today because we can actually have a lot more class participation. What we're going to do is that we're going to start out with a poll, and I'm going to ask you to open up the participation box, and I want you to find your yes and no buttons. I would like everyone to vote. And here's the first question. Yes, I like blockchain. No, I don't like blockchain. And you don't have to have a great reason to defend it. Just do you like it? Yes. Or you don't like it? No. I need some no's because I like to have debate. So if there's anyone that might not like it, feel free to switch your vote. So let's get some people chatting here. Nella, welcome. Can you tell us what you like about blockchain? Let me unmute you. There you go.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I was, as we were talking before, I'm really interested in everything that it's related more with healthcare. I think it has many benefits when it comes to other industries than the Bitcoin itself that everybody talks about. And I think it's a good solution, and really, it would really difficult a way to be, like, people think it would directly go to something illicit or something like that, or criminal. But I think when it comes to some certain industries, I just see it as a positive thing. I just don't come with ideas that could be bad or negative. So that, yeah, I think it would be like, it would save lives. So it would like improve the lifestyle basically of a lot of people when it comes to healthcare.
Okay, so Nella, do you have a thought in mind of an example of how you think blockchain could actually save a life in healthcare?
Well, basically, if every hospital knows that I'm allergic to something, or I don't even need to say, so if I have an accident, I'm not able to talk, I'm in a coma or something like that, they can just find out what would be, what's risk, what is in risk or not to put some drug on me or whatever. So it would avoid me having, like, making it worse or not, or even like having surgery if I'm available for something, or if I already had a surgery. Yeah, basically all my background. Yeah.
Very good points, especially with allergies and saving lives. I'll give you an example. I was in Chengdu in China for all of November giving speeches on blockchain with actual examples, because a lot of people in China, China in general loves blockchain, but most of the citizens don't know much about it. But here's a specific example of how blockchain could save your life. It's an idea that I came up with. I don't know if any startups are doing it yet, but you're welcome to take this as your team project. So here's how the basic idea would work. So Nella, you're in Argentina?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say that Nella she's taking 3 drugs in Argentina. And we want to maintain her privacy, but we also don't want to kill her if she comes to another country for medical attention. So Nella is taking 3 drugs for, let's say, diabetes, heart disease, and rosacea, let's say. Well, now she comes to New York City. She has a heart attack on the streets of New York City, and I'm the ambulance driver. I'm the emergency medical technician. And I go, oh, okay, fine, she had a heart attack. Let's just give her this injection. Well, this injection will kill her because the 3 drugs that she's taking from Argentina, we don't know what those are. So how do I save her life and protect her privacy as well? Smartphone. So this is what Nella did before she left Argentina. When she went to the pharmacy, she downloaded the Argentinian pharmacy app. So all of her drugs are on the app. Now she controls the app. She's the one that took the QR code of the drug. Let's say this is the drug. She QR coded it and put it into the app. The pharmacy said, yes, this is what she's taking. So now the information's in the app, but now she's unconscious on the streets of New York City. What do I do as an EMT? I take her thumb, I open her phone, I put in a code that says, yes, I'm an EMT, I'm authorized to get this information. And what I then do is, let's say that I want to give her this drug, a syringe of something. I QR code the drug I want to give her. Then that goes on to the blockchain, which is where all of her information has been placed from the app. But she doesn't want me to know that she's HIV positive or has breast cancer or has herpes, all these things that you don't want people to know certain things. I mean, maybe if she's got something wrong with skin, that's okay, but it's private. She doesn't want me to know that. And I don't need to know that either. So what gets put on the blockchain? It's not the drugs that she's taking. It's the drugs that she will have a drug interaction with. So she might be taking drug A for cancer, but on the blockchain, it would say, you can't take these 5 drugs because they interact with this drug that I don't know about. So it's like a forbidden list. Then when I QR code the drug that I want to put on to give to her, it cross-references with the forbidden list. If nothing's on the forbidden list, you get a thumbs up that says give it to her. Or if it's on the forbidden list, you get a thumbs down with a recommendation of a Plan B drug to give her. So as the EMT, the only information I get is the information I need, which is thumbs up, go ahead, go save her life, or nope, don't give her that drug, go give her something else, and then I administer it that way. So that's something that would allow people to be more in control of their medical records, because you can control what you pick up from the pharmacy. So this is actually a really simple startup that you could actually do that people would pay for. You could make it free, and you can also sell that data. So you, Nella, as the patient, you might get solicited anonymously by me, the pharmacy, saying, hey, Nella, people want to investigate people who are taking your drug. We haven't told them it's you, but they're interested in people taking this drug between the ages of 20 and 30 who are female in South America. They're going to pay you $10 to fill out a questionnaire. Would you like to sell your data? And here's what they want to know: your zip code, your height, your weight, and your medical history. Do you want the $10 or not? And you say yes or no. And this is how now you can sell and profit off of your data. As the owner of that blockchain, you just take a cut of that transaction. So you go out trying to sell the data. You then go to the data owners and say, hey, do you actually want to sell this? And if you don't, then there's no deal. But if you are interested in that, you don't care, maybe you want to prevent people from having that same medical issue, then you may be more willing to sell your own data. But the decision is yours. So this is an idea that you could actually use on the healthcare side. And again, any ideas that I throw out are for you to just take for your team projects. So feel free to run with that one or twist it into some other method. And Rafe, I see your hand is up. What do you like about blockchain? Let me unmute you.
Yeah, got it. Hi.
Hi.
I mean, I think my main things I'm interested in is just improving efficiencies. There are so many things that frustrate me already with the way that transactions happen. I mean, obviously, one of the ones that's talked about a lot is moving money across borders. And obviously, TransferWise has made it so much easier. But you can't use that for everything. But I've had a lot of times when it's taken weeks to get money, and it's like my money and I can't get it. It makes you very angry. But I just think in just general ways of doing things, if everyone has access to the information they need without having to ask someone, then things can just get done faster, and that just makes me happier.
Well, we want to make you happy, so maybe blockchain can get you there.
There's some things, I think, yeah.
If you're interested in doing remittances for your project, I'd encourage you to take a peek at Alipay. When I was living in China last summer, I didn't use a wallet anymore. It was all on my phone. Everything was a QR code. I just sent money to my friends, or they sent me a bill, very much like Venmo. You're welcome to take ideas like that and perhaps put a different twist on it. It's okay to copycat something, but maybe there's a way that you can make it where it would be easier or better. One of the issues that people typically get with remittances is you have language barriers. So maybe you have something where everything is done in emojis, where it's visual. Maybe you're sending money back to grandma, and it was a whole big effort just to get her onto the smartphone, no less pressing all these buttons. Maybe you make it something super simple with icons for people that may not be understanding the language that you're communicating in. So you don't have to have like major twists on your projects, but like little ones that could do what I call nudges. There's actually an interesting book called Nudge. Raise your hand if you've heard of that book before.
We just say yes.
Cesar, yeah. Have you read the book, Cesar?
Yeah, like the gentle nudge.
Yes. It's the yellow book. The basic idea is they want to change public policy. They want to change public policy by making small shifts. So the guy that wrote the book is a law professor at Harvard, and I attended his TED Talk. He's actually very funny, which surprised me. The whole idea is there were some countries where they had very high participation in people doing organ donation on their licenses. And then countries like the United States were very low. So the natural assumption was that some of these Northern European countries were just nicer than American countries. And what it was the question at the Registry of Motor Vehicles. In Northern Europe, it was check here if you don't want to be an organ donor. And in the United States, it was check here if you want to be an organ donor. So it was the difference between opt-in and opt-out. And once they changed the polarity of the question, they more than doubled the number of people who are doing organ donation. So little small nudges that you could do, you could be copying someone else's blockchain project, but with a nudge, that's it. Yep, the little elephant push. Exactly, Cesar, thank you. So doing small pushes like that, there's actually one of my favorite ones was in airports, in the men's room. People were peeing on the floor. And what they ended up doing is they painted little flies in the urinal, thinking that guys are going to try to hit the fly because it's a game. And that's how they actually cleaned up bathrooms in public spaces. So if you're a guy and you see a fly in the urinal, it's probably not a fly, it's painted on. And that was part of the book Nudge. Another one that pretty much everyone could see, that in Chicago, there's this hairpin turn on Lakeshore Drive, and people take the turn too quickly. And they were doing all these things, signs to try to stop it. What they ended up doing is that before you came into the curve, they were putting horizontal lines on the ground that were spaced apart. And then as you came into the curve, they shortened them so it looked visually like you were speeding up right before the curve, and it got people to naturally brake without using signage. And it actually decreased the number of fatalities. So whatever you do for your projects, they don't have to be massively disruptive. They could be little nudges that would actually change people's public behavior. So let's hear from some other people on what you like about blockchain. Matul in Team 14, what's something that you like about blockchain? Let me just unmute you here. There you go.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, hi. Actually, I don't know anything about blockchain, but I would like to interested in the shipping industry or maybe supply chain industry. Shipping on the sea, like Maersk and AP Moller and those kind of companies.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know anything about blockchain, so I will need your assistance.
Well, you're in luck, Batul, because my favorite example of a case study for blockchain is supply chain. One of the challenges with blockchain is that a lot of people use it the wrong way. What's interesting with supply chain, you can actually Google blockchain IBM Maersk. I'm going to put that into...
Yeah, actually, I put that Padlet on...
You put it in the
IBM and Maersk. Yeah, that red lens thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maris, blockchain, IBM. There you go. So did you see the 3-minute video on how blockchain works for supply chain?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that video too.
Now, you can use that for any kind of supply chain where basically, if we take a look at the board, we have on our second row here, I can see Catherine, Matul, Emilio, and Salman. So let's say that Catherine is making carpets. Catherine, what country do you live in? Can you unmute for a second? Here, let me unmute for you. There you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm originally from Russia, Moscow.
Russia. Okay. So, Catherine, let's say that you want to export something. What's something that you would like to export from or where you live?
I don't know.
Could be anything.
Okay.
Maybe diamonds?
Maybe what?
Diamonds from Russia?
No. Actually, we have diamonds some, yes.
Yeah.
In the goods, yeah. Yes.
You want to export some diamonds, Catherine?
It's like luxury goods, diamonds. The good
Okay.
example.
So diamonds are a great example. So Catherine is going to export diamonds. Matul is going to be the guy that owns the Maersk shipping. He owns the shipping company. Okay. So he has the shipping container. Now Emilio is going to be the customs agent. Okay. Now Solomon, what country do you live in?
From Mumbai, India.
Can you raise your voice? What'd you say?
Mumbai? From Mumbai? I'm from Mumbai, India.
Mumbai. Okay, so Catherine is going to sell diamonds from Russia to Salman in Mumbai. Okay? Now, Emilio is going to be the customs agent in Mumbai. And Matul is going to be the shipping agent. Now, I'm going to go slowly with this because it actually involves 2 different blockchains. So the first one is getting rid of counterfeit diamonds that are in what they're called blood diamonds. So it was child labor was used to get these diamonds. But Solomon doesn't want a blood diamond, he wants a clean diamond. So what Catherine does is she puts a serial number that you can't see on the diamond, and there's actually a machine that does this. You dip the diamond into basically a liquid that will measure 40 different characteristics of the diamond. So the different cuts, the different facets, it kind of makes like a fingerprint of the diamond, and all those identifiers will then go on to the blockchain. So this is a clean diamond that is now on the blockchain. So Catherine first puts that up on the blockchain. Then the diamond is going to go onto the shipping container with a beacon. This is the beacon that is going to basically be a GPS tracker so that you can watch it going from Russia over to Mumbai.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to do 2 examples because there's 2 blockchains here. We're just going to use the counterfeit one first. So now this diamond is going through, and now it gets to Mumbai, but it gets to Emilio. So now Emilio gets this thing off the ship, and he goes, hey, we just got some diamonds from Russia, and I don't know if these are clean diamonds or blood diamonds. Not really sure. So let's take the manifest that says, of course, all the manifests say they're clean diamonds, but we're actually going to take this diamond and we're going to take out the microscope and look at the serial number on the diamond. And then we're going to cross-reference it with the blockchain to make sure that that serial number actually matches the 40 identifiers of the number of facets it has, the clarity, the weight, all that. And if everything clears, the diamond clears. But let's say on the same shipment is a blood diamond. And of course, they say that they're clean diamonds. And they have a serial number of a clean diamond. But it doesn't have the same fingerprint. It's not the same weight. It's not the same clarity. It doesn't have the same number of facets. So now that diamond can get pulled, and now you know that that blood diamond has been taken out of circulation. But the clean diamond keeps going to Solomon. So Solomon ordered 2 diamonds. One was a blood diamond seized by Emilio. The second one got through. Solomon, again, if he goes to, let's say, Tiffany or a jewelry store, they could check it on the blockchain as well before he has it put into an engagement ring for whoever he's fallen in love with. So this is how blockchain could be used in shipping to get blood diamonds out of the circulation. Here's another way that blockchain could work, and this is based on insurance. So now let's say that Catherine only has clean diamonds. So now she packs it up and she goes, okay, I have 20 carats of diamonds. It's worth $100,000 and it's insured. Here it is in the package. There's on the beacon. It's in the Maersk shipping container. Now there's a humidity monitor in the beacon. Once it hits 100%, it means that the ship sunk because the container is now wet. Well, once the beacon stops transmitting because the humidity monitor said, okay, the diamonds are wet and we're sinking, and now the beacon is at the bottom of the ocean, that can trigger a smart contract that was in Catherine's insurance policy that says if the beacon stops transmitting and the beacon transmits 100% humidity and Maersk Shipping confirms that the ship sunk, then we will wire money to Catherine to pay her for her diamonds. And we will send a wire to Solomon for him to get his deposit back because he probably gave a deposit to Catherine. So the insurance claim gets sped up very quickly instead of waiting months. Now, blockchain can also protect the relationship because people might start fighting. And we might say, okay, the ship sunk. Catherine says to Solomon, the ship sunk. And he goes, oh, wait a minute. I gave you a bunch of money. Give me my money back. And Catherine goes, well, wait a minute. I did what I was supposed to do. I put it on the boat. I'm not supposed to drive the boat. Go talk to Maersk. So now Solomon and Catherine are fighting. And so Solomon wants a refund, but Catherine doesn't want to send half her money back when she also lost the diamonds. Now, she's not really sure that Solomon actually didn't get the diamonds either, because it's a non-blockchain transaction in this example. So Solomon and Catherine could spend a lot of time yelling and screaming at each other, destroying their business relationship, when neither of them did anything wrong. But with blockchain and having all this open communication and everyone being able to track everything every step of the way, and people getting paid immediately, then Catherine and Solomon still like each other. They got their money back fairly, and all they do is Solomon just reorders more diamonds from Catherine. And so blockchain can actually prevent lawsuits and keep business relationships intact when you get some of this he said, she said kind of thing going on. Also, twice as much money is spent in tracking a shipment than actually shipping it. So you could actually increase GDP by about 5% globally because you're basically making consumer goods cheaper. So supply chain is actually one of my favorite examples. And I think for a team project, if this is of interest to you, is making a blockchain import-export service for small business owners like Catherine and Solomon who aren't going to be using blockchain all the time. Maybe Catherine just sold her grandmother's diamond, an heirloom. It's going to be a one-time transaction. And maybe Solomon only plans on getting married once in his life. So he just wants to buy a diamond ring once. So they don't need a blockchain for the rest of their lives. They just need a blockchain transaction once. And then Matul, you can actually charge extra money and say, yeah, you could get your own blockchain for cheaper, but you're just going to use this once. So I'm going to charge you double because I'm making it really easy for you. So you could actually become like this blockchain importer exporter. Okay. Rachel, did we hear from you on what you liked about blockchain? Hi.
I think you guys, covered it all, but I really like the transparency aspect of just really knowing, you know, how your data is transferred. And just like you mentioned about the supply chain, you know, also in the farmer aspect of like sustainable products going into supermarkets, knowing exactly when they've been picked out and the expiration dates and stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's also very good for food recalls. So I'm going to put into the chat room, there is another video you can pull up. It's only 3 minutes long. Blockchain, Walmart, Frank, mangoes.
Yeah,
So
I actually watched that in the module.
Oh, good. Okay. So yeah, that's like a really easy one. He's actually going to be one of our guest speakers next semester because I'm teaching here at Hult and then Harvard again. So I'm kind of cross-pollinating stuff. But I'm also going to be inviting all of you to be a part of our guest lecture series at Harvard. It's all going to be on Zoom. It's free. And there's also going to be a 3-session coding class. So if anyone wants to learn how you actually code blockchain, you can let me know and I'll include you on that list. And let's move on to our next question. It's also going to be a vote, yes or no. Do you believe that blockchain is a general purpose technology? General purpose technologies like the light bulb or the wheel or fire. Do you think it is a general purpose technology, yes or no? Oh, good. We have 2 answers, so we get to have a little debate. I like debates. So, Rafe, am I saying your name right? Rafe, Rafi? How do I say your name right?
Yeah, it's Rafe. It's like safe.
Oh, I like that. Thank you. That helps. Okay, safe, Rafe. So, why is it not a general purpose technology?
I'm just not entirely convinced that it's going to be used widely enough. I think it's going to improve things a lot, but I think there's still opportunities for other things to come up behind it, because I think we're still in the very nascent stages of these kind of technologies, where we're using things like cryptography to make these things secure. Particularly with things like, you see what's happening with Bitcoin. It's still all over the place. And I think it's going to take a long time to build the trust necessary, the right organizations to adopt this thing.
Great. Now, there are no right or wrong answers on here. This is all, we're in the opinion stage, so no one, who knows where it's going to go. But what is interesting is we all agree, well, actually, let me verify this. Rafe, would you agree that the light bulb is a general purpose technology?
Well, I would say it's more electricity than the light bulb.
Fair enough. Let's stick with electricity. Would you agree that electricity is general purpose technology?
Yes.
Now let's go back a couple hundred years, and you and I are living by candlelight in our very nice little home. And someone knocks on our door and says, hey, we got this thing called electricity with light bulbs. Let me rip up all of your walls, put in a bunch of wires, charge you a bunch of money to do that, and you can get the same illumination as you do with a candle. You want to do that? What would you say at that time?
Well, you have to know the pros and cons, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but imagine what do you think of the adoption of that? To go from the candle to the light bulb, what kind of adoption do you think was out in the beginning? I mean, you had to wire a house.
Yeah, and there was gas in between.
Yes. So now let's go to blockchain. If someone wanted to take you from a regular database or whatever you're doing on the computer and switch you over to blockchain, how big of an adoption do you think that would be compared to wiring your house for electricity?
Well, I mean, like your colleague from CDC was saying, I mean, one of the first things he had to do was take all this information that was siloed, de-silo it, create all these APIs, decide what is on the chain, what's off the chain. I mean, you're talking like a huge project. So obviously that's going to cause a lot of disruption to your business and could equally, result in downtime, result in, extra resources being deployed to get there. So I think a lot of people would be very nervous about that kind of investment.
I see the nervousness, especially in first world countries, but I would toss out there that if you wanted to talk about the adoption that was required to go from candles to electricity and from horses to cars, adopting blockchain might be a little bit easier. It's not like you had to throw away the hay and sell the horse and go buy a car and then spend money on paving a road everywhere and then inventing the gas station and buying gas. There was a whole lot that had to change to go from the horse to the car and from the candle to the light bulb. And whether or not blockchain becomes general it becomes a GPT. I think we really only know that in hindsight. It might get some quick adoption because it doesn't take that much to switch over, especially if you are in a third world nation that doesn't have legacy systems. So anyone that's interested in doing something in healthcare, trying to do an electronic medical records on blockchain in the United States probably will be really hard to do. But if you do it in a lesser developed nation or a developed nation that had a natural disaster like Puerto Rico, a lot of Puerto Rico got wiped away, but first world nation. So you can go in there and say, hey, why don't we blockchain your records now? That could be an easy way to go into adoption. So taking a look at lesser developed countries that have less money, or where there was a natural disaster where whatever legacy system was there has been wiped away, you could get some quick and easy adoption there. So again, these are just thoughts for your projects and how you want to roll it out. You might have a great idea that won't fly in one culture, but it would fly in another one. And Yesenia, what do you think on this being a general purpose technology?
Yeah, I think it includes in the general technology because it helps people in terms of like the transparency and the security issues.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to start off with our lecture now, and there's so few people in class, which is really good, that you can just open up your mic and ask a question. So this is going to come in two parts before we break for questions and another poll. This is for you to be able to go to your friends and explain to them what blockchain is. Now, this is the presentation that I had given in China with a translator, so I was crossing language and culture, and I was at different age groups, different kinds of people, and I always teach with analogy. And you're welcome to take the same analogy because we want to get on common ground with people. So let's start off with, how do you explain blockchain to anyone? Your little brother, your little sister, your mom and dad. Well, we all know what a library is. Whether we have access to one or not, most people in the world know what a library is. And for this purpose, imagine that the library in your town, there's only one. So it is a database because it has all the books are there. All the information is in book form and all the books are in the building, and there's only one, which means it's a centralized database. Centralized meaning there's only one in town, and a database meaning all of the information is held in book form, and those books are on paper. Now, here's the problem with this form of database. The data is vulnerable to fire or flood. The building itself could wash away. An earthquake, San Francisco just had one. What if the building goes boom and goes into the crack? What if someone steals a book? What if someone puts a fake book in or rips pages out or puts in a counterfeit book that says inaccurate information, a math book that says 2 + 2 = 5? So the data really can't be totally trusted because it's vulnerable and it's not diversified. But what if, instead of having a centralized library, we had branch libraries around town? So now we have 6 branch libraries around our little village. So maybe one will burn, okay, but the rest survive. One floods, the rest survive. Someone steals a book out of one, but the book remains in all the others. Notice here how I have removed the central library. There is no longer a headquarters. This is where people have a hard time with blockchain. There is no longer a centralized database. There is no longer a headquarters. It's all mirror images around town. These are basically blockchain nodes. So now what would happen if we connect these libraries? Where if someone puts a book into one of the branches, the book goes into all the other branches. Conversely, if someone takes a book out of one, it leaves all the others. Watch what we just did to the library system. We already decentralized it because there is no main library anymore. It has been synchronized because now that they're connected by the internet, whenever someone makes a transaction in one library, it gets communicated to the others. So a new book comes into the Northwest Library, it gets zapped to all the others immediately. If someone takes one out, it leaves them at the same time. This is where the redundancy comes in. Redundant basically means these are all mirror images of each other. So you don't have to just go to one library saying, oh, well, this one's better, the librarian's better, they have longer hours. They're redundant. They're all mirror images. It doesn't matter. 4 is immutable. So now these books are no longer on paper. They are now etched in stone. So now there are stone tablets. So imagine that Catherine goes into the library and she's not sure if someone has changed the book or it's the real book or someone stole it or put a fake one in there. Now that it's a stone tablet, if someone changes anything with that stone tablet, it's too heavy to steal. It's too heavy to bring in there, so it can't move. So it's official. But let's say that there was a mistake. Maybe I wrote a book and my name was spelled Michael with a K. Well, you can't just erase that and change it. You have to scratch out the Michael with the K and then etch in the Michael with the C so people can see what you did. So this is where the immutable part comes in. So you know that that information isn't changing, and if it does change, you can see the appendings. And 5 is it's transparent. Everyone has a public library card. Everyone is allowed to go in. Everyone has access to all departments. So this library system is actually very similar to how a blockchain actually works. And the 2 big advantages over this new blockchain library system is that you can trust the information that's in there because it's written in stone, it's too heavy to steal a book, and you can't burn it, you can't flood it, the stone is going to survive. And it's going to be more secure because now you have multiple libraries, so even if one library or node goes down, that data is in 5 other places, and you can have it in 100 other places if you want. And that's basically how a blockchain operates. So before I move any further into the lecture, raise your hand or go into the chat on where, if anywhere in this, you have any confusion, because we just start to build on this. So feel free to raise a hand. You can even do a private chat, and I won't tell people it was you, I'll just answer the question. So I'll wait about 30 seconds, and then we're going to move into the second part of the lecture, which is going to be your team projects. Okay, let's keep going. And if something comes up, just put it in the chat. So now here is what I'm going to encourage you to use. Please screenshot this or take a photograph of it. This is for your team project. The big thing that we want you to figure out is making sure that you use blockchain because you need it, not because you want it. So we want to make sure that you actually need blockchain for your project, and it's not simply a nice to have. So if you can answer all these questions, you're good to go. So the one I'd like to point out is number 3. Do parties have conflicting incentives, or are they not trusted? Now, most people think of blockchain as someone's a thief and they're stealing money. But there are 4 components of trust. And this is where you may have more reasons to have a blockchain. So trust component number 1 is credibility. Do you know what you're doing in simple form? So let's say that I work at a hospital, Catherine works at a hospital, and Rafe works there as well. We're all in the medical records department. Well, Rafe is really good at what he does. Catherine, total perfectionist, dots the I's, crosses the T's. I kind of show up a little hungover every once in a while if I do show up for work, and I don't really care about what I'm doing. Well, I'm an honest person. I'm just hungover most of the time. Well, Rafe and Catherine might say, let's have a blockchain where we can double check Michael's work, because even though he's not trying to do anything bad or embezzle money, he's just not well trained. He's not a really good worker. And when he puts information on the blockchain, I don't know if it's going to be accurate. So they don't trust me, not because I'm a bad guy, but because I'm not really credible. And that is a reason to have a blockchain. Reliability is a second component of trust. So now let's flip it and say that one of our policies on our hospital database is that all information will be updated by Friday at 5 p.m. Well, we know that Catherine has 2 kids, and she and her husband like to go away on the weekend, so they like to miss afternoon traffic. So she kind of gets out of the office Friday at 3. Well, we know that there's a 2-hour gap in that information. That Rafe says, no, I know that this isn't a Friday 5 p.m. database, it's a Friday 3 p.m. database. So I think we need to double check Catherine's work because she's not so reliable on Friday afternoons. Monday through Thursday, she's great, but she and the kids want to go away for the weekend. So that becomes the reliability issue. Number 3 is going to be intimacy, which this is used in a different form. This is the ability to have difficult conversations. So let's say that part of going on the blockchain is whether or not someone is, let's say, have you paid your hospital bills? Now, what if I get a piece of patient information and I see it's my neighbor and she's way behind in her payments, and I should put on that she hasn't paid her bills, but I know that she's having some issues with her husband, her mom just died, she's going bankrupt. The last thing she needs to do is have a bill collector coming after her. So maybe I'm not going to put that information on the blockchain because I don't want to have that, I don't want to make her life any worse. So my motivations are now for not having awkwardness happen in my life or to a friend. And so this is another reason why you want to have someone checked. Number 4 on trust is going to be ego, which is where you're coming from. Is Rafe, Catherine, and Michael, are they trying to get accurate information because they want to have accurate information for the hospital? Or are we maybe trying to have information that's going to help us out? Maybe Rafe's best friend is a resident, and that resident made a mistake and killed a patient. Does he want to put that information on the blockchain if he knows his friend is going to lose his medical license? He might want to help his friend out and maybe not mention it and say that the cause of death was by an accident, natural causes. So there's plenty of reasons why you might not trust people who are putting information on the blockchain. And it could be a really good idea to have Rafe, Catherine, and Michael all checking each other. So your blockchain could have a code in there that says if Ray's input equals Catherine's input equals Michael's input, then it has been verified. And if it doesn't match, it's going to pop out and maybe it's going to go to a supervisor like Yesenia, who's going to say, hey, wait a minute, Rafe and Catherine agree. Why did Michael come up with a different response? So this could be an internal mining verification process that doesn't use a lot of electricity because you're not doing pure mining with a bunch of strangers. So if you find that people inputting on this blockchain might not be trustworthy, it's a good reason to use a blockchain. So I like to use these 4, the trust equation, credibility, reliability, intimacy, and ego, and then you can go on to the next steps. And when you get to the bottom, you can have either a public blockchain, which will use up a lot of electricity, or permissioned, which is going to use less because you don't have to go through all of the mining. And let me just go through the chat because there were a couple questions in here. How do you put or store information on the blockchain? Basically, what you put on the blockchain is typically pointers or receipts. So for example, let's say we wanted to have an app that said whether or not you're legal to drink in San Francisco. Well, what we do now is, let's say it's Catherine walks up to the bar and she holds up her ID. Well, it says her name, her address, height, weight, organ donation, way too much information. All we need to know is she okay to be buying a beer? So we could have a blockchain app that does age verification, and all it would say is thumbs up, she can have a drink, or thumbs down, it doesn't. We don't know her age, and we don't know all this extra information. So what you could do is just put on a receipt on the blockchain that just says thumbs up for Catherine on being able to have a beer. The information that has her date of birth, that doesn't actually go on the blockchain. That could go into a private database that doesn't go online, that doesn't get hacked. So the blockchain typically doesn't have all that private information. It just has the information that you need. Like, yes, you can give that person that drug, but I'm not going to tell you what other drugs they're taking. Yes, you can have a beer, but I'm not going to tell you how old that person is. So basically what you typically put on is just pointers or receipts that say yes or no. Like, yep, they own the car, but I'm not going to tell you what they paid for the car. And now Yesenia has a question. Oops, I'm sorry. It was private, but I gave that away. This is about how data input works. If you accidentally put information wrong, what will happen next? Okay, the way blockchain works right now, what do you do if you put in a mistake? You can't take it out. You can append it and say, hey, I put Yesenia's name in here and I spelled it wrong. So now I'm going to spell it right. And that's basically how blockchain works. It's basically the stone where you may have spelled my name wrong, but you scratch it out and put in the new name, but you don't just erase the error so that people can see basically the paper trail of what happened. That's basically what it's doing. Accenture is trying to come up with an appendable blockchain where you can edit it. However, that really breaks one of the basic rules why blockchain was even invented. Now someone could argue that the trust factor is gone because, hey, someone can change it. How do I know that you didn't bribe somebody? So you really open up quite a can of worms by being able to do that. But on the flip side, let's talk about ethics. What if someone said that I was on a sex offender list, but they got my name wrong? Actually, real example. There was an infant that was murdered in Boston. Her name was Baby Jane Doe. She washed up on one of the Boston Harbor Islands, and for about a year or two, they couldn't figure out who the murderer was. The murderer was a guy named Michael McCarthy. So if you Google Michael McCarthy, this meth head comes up like next to me. And people were asking me, oh my God, did you kill that baby? And I actually had that question in China. Someone Googled me. And what if they spelled my name wrong? It wasn't me. Now, if you could erase it and be like, yeah, no, it was John McCarthy, never mind, I'm fine. But even when you append it, can you really unsee that I killed a baby after that was already planted in your mind? So it becomes an ethical issue. And this is actually something that Rafe and I were talking about was, some of the ethical and moral downsides of blockchain. And, one of them would be the unemployment issue, which I'm going to ask Rafe about in just a second. So Rachel has in here, oops, I just blew anonymity again. If blockchain is decentralized, how do you store the information? It's copy pasted over multiple servers. So instead of it being in one place, it's just basically copied all around multiple places. So if you have voting, you're going to be having, let's say, 100 servers, the nodes have all this voter information. And let's say some country tries to hack the election. They'll say, okay, well, they found 2 servers. They hacked those 2. The other 98 all have the same information. So 98% agree, 2% don't agree. These were hacked and we take them out. The election is still valid because the other 98 agree. So they're basically hidden servers and hidden nodes. So everything is copied. And yeah, it's a ton of storage. It's massive. It's kind of crazy. Next question. How can you be sure that your amendment or blockchain information is distributed across the servers successfully? Well, you can see it. So once you put that information up and it gets confirmed and posted, then it just gets sent around and copy pasted. And then you can just check it on your own because it's transparent. You can see, hey, did that server in Armenia post it? So again, you can check that one. So let's keep moving on the project. And again, keep putting your questions in here. This is going to be your framework, the business model canvas. What I'd like you to focus on is the problem that you are solving. That's basically the format that I'm looking for. What is the problem and how is blockchain the solution? If you make this thing revenue generating, great. But there are some people that want to do banking and remittances. That might be a division inside of Santander or Bank of America, and it might be a cost saver, not an actual revenue generator. So don't worry too much about that. But like the supply chain one about being able to pay people back when the diamonds sink because Catherine's grandmother's diamond was lost, that's okay. That might not be a revenue generator for the insurance company. It's a saver, and maybe they get some good PR because now you get your claims faster. So don't worry too much about the revenue. If you can do it, great. And let me just answer Rafe's question before I get into this actual case thing. Okay, how can you be sure that your amendment or blockchain? Oh, yeah, so where do you see it? I think I just answered this one already. Basically, you can take a look around at the other servers and see that they have it. But for the most part, once something, this is in the code, that once something is approved and like you're a minor, where something, hold on one second, I have a call coming in. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so someone just popped right into my Zoom call here. Can everyone still see me okay? Can you just do a thumbs up? Okay. All right, so yeah, pretty much how the blockchain code works is that once something has been approved for going onto the chain, it gets zapped around, and you can double check that. And that's actually going to be in a blockchain video I can send you. It's a 1-hour lecture on how blockchain works under the hood. It's basically, it's a very technical lecture. This is not a technical class. This is an innovation class on how to do strategy. But if you want to learn about the coding part, I can put that in an announcement. Just click yes in the participants box if you want me to post that 1-hour lecture. Again, it's very technical. It's in the weeds. It's how hashes work, the nonces work, and all that. And okay, one person said yes at the very least, so I'll put that in there. So let's go into the blockchain and education case study. This is for real. I actually did it. And I'll be looking at the group chat after this in about 15 minutes. So here's a problem in China. They have an issue with fake transcripts, diplomas, and college essays. So bad people are getting into good colleges with fake data. Job applications, 85% of them have something misleading. There's actually more fake PhDs every year than real ones. So a big problem that China has is that Chinese college applications are not trusted. Here's a hidden loss scenario to make this problem even bigger, is that Harvard will take about one person for every 20 applicants. So 20 people are fighting for one seat. Now put yourself in the position of, now I am going to be the admissions officer at Harvard. And I see 20 people applied for one spot, 3 people, 3 of them, they all qualify. And now I'm sitting here doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo. How do I decide? Well, the American's going to be really good. The German woman, she's great. The Chinese guy, his application is really outstanding. But in the back of my head, I hear this thing, yeah, Chinese applications, sometimes they buy their transcripts and the essays aren't their own. Actually, a lot of colleges will get the same essay 200 to 300 times because it was sold 200 to 300 times in China. Now, there's software to check for plagiarism, but let's say that this all got through. And I'm kind of afraid that I might be letting in the wrong person. What happens if I let in someone with fake credentials? You're not going to find out probably till sophomore year when they've failed out of freshman year pretty badly. You talk to professors, the other students, and like, yeah, this person doesn't belong. Well, now Harvard looks bad. The German woman and the American guy, they didn't get into the college of their choice because someone committed fraud. So there's a lot of losses here. And it's a dilemma for college admissions. And it would certainly be very embarrassing for Harvard or Hult or any college to say, hey, someone duped you and you let a fraud in. Well, it's going to harm the college's reputation to the extent that maybe I don't want to risk my job or the fallout, or maybe this big CNN or Fox News article that comes out saying, hey, Harvard got duped. So maybe I'll just quietly reject that Chinese application because I don't want to take the risk. Maybe it's right, maybe it's not right. But hey, I still have 2 qualified people who I do believe that their information is correct. Well, who loses in this scenario? One, the Ivy League, because maybe that Chinese student was going to be the next Nobel Prize winner and that student went somewhere else and we don't get that credit. And that kid deserved to get in. Well, in the top right, you take a look at the agents. Agents in China are the ones, pretty much every college student in China will have an agent to get them into an American college. And these people will help you with the essays, pass TOEFL. If there are so many people getting in with fake credentials, these agents are going to lose business because their honest students aren't getting in. And then the bottom right is the worst losers, which are the honest Chinese students that don't get into colleges that they deserve to because someone didn't trust their application. Now, watch how this gets even worse. This could be a global trend. It actually already is a global trend that less Chinese students are accepted worldwide. Harvard just got sued over this for different reasons, but I believe this is part of it as well, that good people are not getting in because of a trust issue. Now, this could get even bigger for the government of China, the country as a whole. They love education. In fact, they spend, I believe, over 25% per household on education, highly respected. It's a huge expense, and they love education. They can't compete globally if people don't even want them in their colleges. So the solution would be to create trusted, verified student credentials. And this is where blockchain comes in. If you can put verified transcripts, essays, and diplomas on the blockchain that are verified by trusted individuals ahead of time, like a government agency or the college, the issuer, whoever's issuing that diploma, then you can have more trust. So this is how blockchain can help the education industry, basically storing and delivering diplomas and certificates on the blockchain. You get 6 advantages: verified, permanent. You, the student, controls it, not the government, not the school. No more transcripts. It's convenient because it's an app on your phone, and it's trusted and secure because it's on the blockchain. So the company actually doing this came out of MIT. It's called BlockCerts. It's a free app that you can download now. The top right is the company I worked for, Algor, which was the Chinese partner. They're the ones that would make sure that the app would be on a platform that you could download in China, and also translating it into Chinese and giving us connections and meetings with the Chinese government. So there's 8 advantages to digital diplomas and certificates. One is that your diplomas now are virtual. You can't mess around with them. There's no tampering. Credits can now be transferred easily between schools, and the student, not the college, is going to control the diplomas. Once you graduate, you can share your postgraduate work with employers. Everything is going to be in one central location on the blockchain. So if something happens to the schools that you went to, like a fire, or if you become a refugee, like this highly educated people from Syria who were not able to prove that they were doctors and lawyers because they didn't have their diplomas in the refugee camps, that would save that. There's actually another real example in Puerto Rico. They had a hurricane. A lot of the teachers came to Florida. My mom met a few of them, and they were teachers' aides. But they had 20 years experience as teachers, but their teacher certificates were lost in the hurricane, and so they had to start over. Had they had those certificates, they would be teachers, but now they have to start over. And again, number 8 is it saves everyone time and money. So now we could actually turn this into a lifelong learning passport. So we're now going beyond college. So we go beyond the diplomas, transcripts, and essays. You know, what if Catherine writes a book, or Rachel gets some certificates while she was working at Google, or Cesar becomes a lawyer or a doctor and he wants to put that professional license on the blockchain. All that can go on there. And the control is multiple layers. So let's talk about you as students in Hult. Hult San Francisco could issue the diploma and control that blockchain. Or Hult Global, all the schools together could issue those diplomas globally and control them as well. There could be a national depository in the United States for all of the diplomas. Or there could be a global one that is run by the United Nations. But the prize here is student control, that we actually want individual students to hold this, not an actual entity, because if an entity holds it, they could control it, and now you're back to having another middleman, which is what blockchain's trying to get rid of. So the big goal that I had here was to have Chinese transcripts be the most trusted in the world. And let's dive into how we would actually do it. It's a collaboration. Learning Machine is a company that is affiliated with MIT. They actually coded BlockCerts, the app. BlockCerts is the app itself that was bought by MIT. I'm basically the networking glue between these components, and Algor Block was my employer to help usher MIT into China and basically smooth the way to get everyone to get along and do business together. Now, here's what your diploma is now going to look like. It's that little hash on the bottom right. So that's the address. It's just going to be a hash, which is not the actual diploma. The diploma doesn't go on the blockchain. It's just going to be the receipt, and that receipt gets cross-referenced with Harvard's database or block search database. The public key is like the email address or the safe deposit box or Dropbox where Jennifer Lee is going to be getting the diploma. So it's just an app. This is what it looks like. That middle bar, all those numbers and letters, that's what your diploma looks like. It's a hash or a serial number. And here's how you walk through it. So you basically end up getting, Hult is going to invite you to download the app. And then you, number 2, say yes. So now you get registered. Then Hult is going to hash your diploma into a serial number. Number 4, they're going to send it to you. Number 5, it's on your phone. And number 6, you can send it around to whoever they want. Once they get it, they might not know what to do with it, but they hit a button on the app that will go cross-reference with Hult's database that says, yes, this is actually a diploma that matches the student. If you want to give your hash to somebody else or they hack it, you can do that, but it's not going to match up with what you look like or your name and address. So again, it's just a receipt. So through the verification process, you can see if someone actually stole it off of you. And these are just some screenshots of what the app looks like. You can download the app. You can't do much with it until someone sends you a certificate. But this is basically what it looks like. One of the downsides to it is it doesn't prevent someone from bribing someone at Hult in the admissions office or the certificate office to put a diploma on that wasn't earned. So again, once it's on the blockchain, it's verified, but it doesn't get around that issue. And again, these are just more screenshots. Essays can go on here as well. One of my favorites is once you've graduated college, anything that you do post-college can go on as well. And the smartphone in the middle is owned by that lab tech. So she can send those certificates wherever she wants, so she controls it. Now, this is our list of clients, and you see there's quite a few of them, and I'm going to deep dive into why each of these are a separate revenue source. So the student client, of course, they want us to verify these 3 items for them to get into college. The agents, they want to be able to blockchain all their information too, so that they can say that they are also a trusted group, because you as a student, you might not know what blockchain is if you're in high school, and they could just have this taken care of in the background. Universities, we would love to make sure that people's applications are pre-verified before we see them, so that we don't have to knock out people inappropriately. Once you've graduated college, you're going to want your diploma on the blockchain as well, because there's lots of fake diplomas around, the PhD example. Once you're looking for a job, wouldn't you want to be in that 15% that has a verified resume as opposed to the 85% that have something fake on it? So you could be a better candidate with blockchain verified resumes. Human resources at corporations, I think this is the big money here. They spend a lot of money verifying people's information. They would love to have candidates pre-verified. Then they can just see if you fit into the organization as opposed to seeing if you're telling the truth or not. And here's another big promise of blockchain. You could make money off your own data. That maybe all this data that you put into this blockchain, maybe someone wants to come along and find out more about you. And so they could come to us, Block Search, and say, we want to spend money on college students in a certain demographic. If you fit that demographic, maybe it's female that went to a college in San Francisco, we would contact you and say, someone wants to buy your data. Here's what they want to pay you. Here's the data they want to look at, yes or no. And then we just wire you the money. And you could become your own source of selling your own data. And if you don't want to sell it, you don't sell it. And as a company, we would take a finder's fee. So we would take, let's say, 5–10% of that contract, and we would be your broker trying to sell your data on your behalf. And here are the 7 new revenue streams, which is basically just a quickie summary of what I've already gone through. Here's the partnership. So again, it's the Chinese Algor, MIT with the tech, and then we would be going to the Chinese government and schools and agents to try to get their buy-in. What we really wanted to do was get the Chinese government to create an agency where all of the transcripts and essays would go to the Chinese agency first, and hopefully it would scare people to the extent that they wouldn't put fake stuff into a government agency because of the penalties. And that would be the first layer of verification. The second layer would be only schools could put that information on. We also had some ideas that when you write the essay, you would be videotaped while you were typing it into a laptop that would be at a government office. So we had some ways around to make sure that the data going in was going to be good. Again, you needed the Chinese partner to make the meetings with the Chinese government and make the app work on the platform and do the translation. I was going to be the networker glue with all of this. MIT we've already gone through. And after all of this, the deal died. And the reason that the deal died was, believe it or not, easy to believe, money. That Al Gore wanted to create a token. So anytime Nella wanted to send her diploma or put some information on the blockchain, she'd have to buy a token to get that transaction to post. And that's how we would be making money. Every time you had us do something with your data, we would charge you a small transaction fee. Well, MIT was like, no, 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 no. Because now we're a middleman. You're now no longer controlling your information. So if Nella doesn't want to buy the token, we're not going to send it to IBM. You're not going to get that job. And they didn't want that. What they wanted to do was basically charge $20,000 each year to a school, or $70,000 to a school with multiple branches like Hult, that they would be able to issue the diplomas with the $70,000 license. And once it got into Nella's hands or Rachel's hands, then it was free from there on out. And Al Gore basically said, we want an ongoing revenue stream. We don't want a one-time shot. And we don't want to be maintaining servers where people are getting our work for free. And that's where it died. And my disagreement with MIT was they wanted this to be open source. And I said, if it's open source, someone can take it. And they were really relying on the MIT brand name. And I said, you ever seen a fake Gucci bag in Beijing, man? I mean, it's easy enough to do. So I don't think they saw the risks of being copied. And with open source, they're not even being copied, they're giving it away. They also didn't have the relationships with the government. And I said, this thing is going to fly when someone gets a government official to bless it. And if you don't have that, you're not going to be successful. And if Uber didn't do well in China and Didi beat them out, I felt that they were making an incorrect decision based on arrogance, that they could go it alone. But I understand their point of view about wanting it to be free to the students. But that's why it died, because of how the thing made money. So this is basically a very deep dive project, but you're welcome to take this idea or take parts of this idea, but the same components are there. It was a problem with a solution that really only blockchain could very elegantly solve, and there was a revenue model in there. There's actually 7 of them. So you can take this example and plug and play this into other industries and other areas. So I know I just gave you a bunch of stuff, which I'm glad that's all recorded, but now feel free to raise a hand or put into the chat if I can answer any questions, if I've created any confusion, if there's anything that I can clear up, or anything you want to ask about your projects, and then I'll take a look at the questions that were put into the chat during the presentation. So I'll answer hand raises first. So if you want to jump the line, raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll just start going through the chat. Okay, so we have a private chat. Says, is there any chance of having a blockchain system break down? And if so, does that mean it's prone to getting hacked and will incur any loss of data? I think anything can happen. I get very skeptical when people say, oh, it's hack proof or it's impossible to go down. When you think about it, a lot of people were saying how great Bitcoin was and it's going to get around governments. And I'm just shaking my head and said, okay, if I was China and I didn't want blockchain in my country, I could easily figure out through energy consumption who was mining blockchain. And I just pull your plug. And once you don't have electricity, you don't have computing power. And now I could have all of my Chinese government servers or whatever large consortium, then I could do the 51% hack where now I'm controlling the blockchain. So all you have to do is turn off someone's electricity. So I would say, yeah, there's a chance that the thing could break down. Hopefully you have it distributed over multiple servers, but I would say anything's possible. I mean, if you can take down, I mean, if you can influence elections and take down planes and put people on the moon, I'd say, yeah, I think the system can break down, sure. Next question, what about the energy needed to verify the chain every time it's added? Does it come from the device from each individual user on the block? If you're in a public blockchain, this is where you're basically the little bank accountant, the bookkeeper, trying to verify all the transactions and compete against other people doing the same thing. We're all paying an electric bill because we're all using our computer. So all that energy is coming from all of us, and only one of us is going to win. Right now, the break even on mining a blockchain block, I think it needs like $4,000 worth of electricity to verify a block. I think Bitcoin right now is at like $3,000. And if you look at the states, Hawaii is really expensive. I think it's $9,000 to verify a block. Louisiana, I believe, is the cheapest at like $4,000. So it's below break even in the United States to mine Bitcoin. Massachusetts, I think, is $7,000. Wyoming, they're trying to make that like the blockchain center of the universe because it's very cheap electricity, but it becomes a break even. It's the same thing with solar energy. Once oil goes above or below a certain number, it makes solar viable or not. And Cesar has, for everyone, I don't have a clear idea why miners should be interested in mining if there isn't an economic reward. In other words, how do we assure vigilance in the blockchain system? Well, you're right. If you don't make money at it, people aren't going to do it. So if you have a permission, if you have a regular Bitcoin blockchain, yeah, I'm making a bet that when Bitcoin was $17,000 and it only cost me $3,000 to mine it, well, that $14,000 delta was worth it. Now, if it's a permissioned blockchain, then I'm being paid by Santander Bank to do the remittances and to do that verification. So it could be Nella, Catherine, Emilio, and myself. We're in the auditing department at the bank, and all four of us are mining the same transaction with the same audit code. If Nella equals Catherine equals Emilio equals Michael, then post it on the blockchain, and we're just getting a salary to do that, and everything's anonymous. So I don't know who's sending money to who because it's all been hashed. Then it's not as expensive. But yeah, people don't do anything for free. So Rafe has for everyone, if Bitcoin is on blockchain, but people have raided Bitcoin vaults and stolen them, where are the security flaws? Aha. Do you need individual apps? I'm glad you brought that up, Rafe, because there was never meant to be middlemen in blockchain. So let's take a specific example. Rachel wants to send money to Solomon with Bitcoin. It was originally designed that Rachel could do this on her own, but here comes the problem. Rachel's like, how do I do that? Read about it, I don't code, don't know what to do. Solomon's like, I don't code either, I don't know what to do. Well, Emilio is the budding entrepreneur that says, ha, people like Bitcoin, but they can't figure it out. So why don't I make a Bitcoin exchange? And I'll partner up with Nella and Catherine. These will be my three partners. So Nella's going to run the Argentinian Bitcoin exchange. Catherine's going to run the one in Russia. They'll do the translating to English. Emilio's going to put this all together, do all the social marketing and stuff. And he's going to make an app that's going to make it really easy for Rachel to download And Rachel just texts Solomon, hey, download this app, this exchange app for Bitcoin. They both do. Rachel buys some Bitcoin with a credit card because Emilio makes that really easy, or you can buy it with your bank account information. So you're using the traditional banking system, you were never supposed to do that, to get into the Bitcoin exchange. So Rachel sticks her money in there. Emilio has become a middleman, which was never meant to be there in Bitcoin. And the money gets sent back and forth and everyone's happy. However, Yesenia is a hacker, and she goes, Emilio doesn't know enough about coding, and he doesn't have enough security measures on his security exchange. So whenever Rachel sends money, I'm going to hack the system and divert it to my account instead of it going to Solomon's. So what happens is Bitcoin is still safe and secure on the blockchain. What happened was it is the exchange that got hacked, not Bitcoin and not blockchain. It's the same thing as saying, I have US dollars in my hand, and I'm going to go put it in a bank that doesn't have a vault and they don't lock the door at night. And someone goes, oh my God, the US dollar is an awful thing. My stuff gets stolen every night. There's nothing wrong with the US dollar. What's wrong is the bank you're using, that the bank doesn't have proper security. So Bitcoin and blockchain have not been hacked. It's the exchanges that were never supposed to exist in the first place that got hacked because they don't have proper security measures. And unfortunately, that has made an awful PR mess for Bitcoin, because they're supposed to be safe, and they are safe, but people don't feel that they are. And kidnappers and hackers and people on the dark web have used Bitcoin because of the anonymity. So Bitcoin's great, but unfortunately they have really bad PR, and they don't have a centralized group that educates people on what's going on. So basically the public is left to kind of figure out on their own what's going on. And I think one of the reasons why Bitcoin has not taken off the way they planned is A, people don't really understand it. B, there is no central group really telling you what is it and how has it worked. It's too complicated for people. And C, some bad people got in there in the beginning and they tarnished it. And since Bitcoin is decentralized, there is no centralized person to say, hey, let me tell you the truth about Bitcoin. Instead, people are just going off talking about what they think, and the public is making their own opinions about it. So that's basically my little rant and rave on Bitcoin and blockchain. So Bitcoin's fine, but yeah, it has a real PR problem. And then we have another private chat in here. Do you know the using of blockchain in gray zone, like arms trading or money laundering? A lot of people don't actually use Bitcoin anymore for doing bad things. They use a coin called Monero, and that has a greater level of anonymity. Does anyone else know of any other tokens that are basically designed for they call them bad actors? Monero is the latest one that I'm aware of. You can actually track people with Bitcoin if you really dig into it. That actually is in that 1 hour lecture, how you could, that's actually how they busted the guy that did Silk Road. So there was that one. So now we have 10 minutes left in class. So again, you can raise your hand and ask questions. Otherwise, I'm going to open it up and take a twist into another area. Raise your hand if you think that you have an idea on how you could make money in Bitcoin. So either do a yes, raise your hand, or put it into the chat. Do you think that you have a way that you could make money with blockchain? Okay, I'm getting crickets in the chat room. So the next question is, tell me about the industry that you want to use for your team project. So you don't have to have a project, you don't even have to have an idea, but if there's an industry that you have an interest in, just pop that out, because there might be some actual blockchain projects out there that I could point you in the direction to. So just type into the chat room the industry that right now that you're interested in. Rental industry, okay. For housing, okay. I've got an interesting one for you, Rafe. Do you have a specific idea, Rafe? Because I have one I can share with you.
Well, the idea that I put up at the end of module 2 is about using blockchain to verify that your renters have paid their rent every month. So using smart contracts, so that like when the money is received, then like the landlord gets a notification. And then also being able to use that information. So when you move from one property to another, your future landlord is able to see your blockchain history, that you are a good actor and that you pay rent on time and you have a history of being a good tenant. And then you can take that work with you around the world.
I love it. A rental credit score.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Now, I actually did a rental blockchain case study in China. And I don't think you'd be able to do this in the United States, but it was on the same theme of what you're doing with smart contracts, that the idea would basically be this, that you get the smart contract that would say every time you pay your rent, you get an updated PIN number that will unlock the door in the apartment. So if you don't pay, the PIN number changes or it expires every month. So you have to pay every month to get the new PIN to open the door. Now, that would work for a smart contract. The challenge you're going to have is in the United States with someone saying, oh my God, you locked my baby inside the house, or my dog or cat is inside the house. And in the US, it takes, well, at least in New York and Massachusetts, it takes about a year to evict someone who hasn't paid. So I don't think this would be legal in the United States, but there might be countries that would allow you to do this. Or you could be renting something that wouldn't have those rules. Let's say that you were taking this idea, and this is where I like to cross industries. What if you did it for a car lease, where inside the car was a camera that you could check that the car is empty. There's no baby or dog or puppy in the car, and you didn't pay your monthly lease. Then it locks you out of the car with the smart contract, and you get the updated PIN, where you're not going to have laws doing that for you. That could be another one that you could use. But feel free to play around with it. But yeah, I love the idea of having a credit score on rental industries. I think that's a great one. Does that generate any thoughts or questions, Rafe? Or you good with your project?
I think it's quite funny what you were saying. What's possible? No, I mean, I think it makes sense. I think I have to think about it a bit more. And I think obviously, you can use cameras as well. Mm-hmm. In property. I mean, we've been looking at putting rings on some of our properties to see, so you would know who was in the building and who wasn't, and things. So there are other ways. I think you can get other data.
You can also get around the controversy of being a bad, evil person if you did this concept for, let's say, a storage unit where they're going to change the PIN if you don't pay for the rent on the storage unit. So that kind of gets you out of locking someone's baby or puppy in the car and having that bad PR happen to you. So again, you can kind of do it for other things.
Yeah, no, I like it. I have to think about it a bit more, I think.
Sure. Okay. And then Vasily has in here, as a solution for registering property rights. There's actually apps that are already doing that right now. Rafe had an issue with blockchain that a lot of people do, that it puts people out of jobs, that surveyors are going to be going out of jobs. Because when I've owned property, I would have to get my property resurveyed every time I sell it or buy it. And it's not like the house moved or the land moved, but they're going to be putting they actually can do this now, little GPS markers that go into the boundary of the land that translates up to satellites. and then the coordinates, I guess the Lorraine coordinates, go into the registry. So they know what degrees of your house is lying at, latitude, longitude, kind of like for when you do sailing. And that's going to be permanent. You only have to do it once. So that's something that you can do. I do know that in Chicago, I think that they sell abandoned properties on the blockchain. So you could look at existing projects that are already going and get some ideas from them. And so we have about 3 minutes left. Are there any other final last wishes, questions? I want to make sure that everyone is left with more clarity than confusion on this. Vasily, hi.
Can you hear me now, Professor?
Yes, hi.
Hi. I got a question. I'm sorry. So you recently mentioned when we went into the credentials and fraud and stuff. So the thing is, what if you could just, what if you could like purchase all the way even up to the, let's say, master degree, basically. So as you mentioned, your certificates, diplomas, whatever, your qualification certificates it's supposed to be verified by any agency or institution, such as like a government authorities or schools or whatever. But what if you can just bribe them still, so it would not make any sense. I mean, they would just, how to say, I mean, they would verify that you actually graduated from the school with the, let's say the average is like 4.1 or something, grade, whatever, which allows you to enter the, whatever, like a business school or a Harvard school or everything. So they can prove that you were graduated even with honor or something, but you simply just bribe them, and it's not, there's no way to verify it somehow, as I got it at this point, right?
Okay, so let's walk through this, and raise your hand if you have an idea how to get through this one. So let's say that I went to Hult, I really did, and I got a 2.0, but I want to bribe the people in the diploma department. So there's Emilio, Solomon, and Rachel. They work in the transcript department, and I've gone up to all three of them and said, hey, I'm going to give you each $50,000 to say that I got a 4.0. And you all say yes. Goes on the blockchain. Okay, I won. How would you get around that?
That's the point. I have no idea. I mean, I would not especially talk about states in this scenario, but China, for example, or Russia, I mean, that would make a lot more sense.
Let's pick this apart, Vasily. So the problem came in is that Michael, me, the bad guy, I knew who Emilio, Salman, and Rachel were, and I was able to get in touch with them. But what if I want to bribe someone, but I can't find the person to bribe them? So what if Hult ended up anonymously finding someone who could not be contacted because you can't find them? So what if I found Nella, who was in Argentina, and I don't know who she is, never heard her name, don't even know where Argentina is on the map, but I want to bribe someone to do my diploma. So what if I just simply outsourced? Here's another business you could have. What if you outsourced a minor verification auditor firm that will audit and put things on the blockchain, but they're anonymous, and the people who want to do bad things like bribers can't find them, and you charge a fee for that. So you go to Hult and say, look, you're going to have all these students that want to bribe everyone for 4.0s. What if you have this thing outsourced in another country with 3 different people that you can't contact? You're going to have
I got the idea.
Yeah, so it might not be perfect, but it certainly makes it really hard to try to find someone like Nella. And maybe you've got Nella in Argentina who is now having to verify her information with Catherine in Russia and Solomon in Mumbai. So now you have different countries, different hemispheres. None of them know each other. So you could try to anonymize the auditors. Again, it's not 100% perfect, but I think going along this line could be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
At least you don't tell people,
Thank you.
hey, Rachel does the diplomas. Try to save
No,
it
that's
up.
right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
So now we have what, 1 minute left. So let me just answer this last question. Oh, I just put in the chat, there is a survey. If you fill out the Survey Monkey, please, that will allow me, it's 2 minutes, tells us what we're doing well and what I can do better so you can have a better second class. So I did get a question, last one. Do you think blockchain is our future? And do you know XDAG or Hashgraph? Some people think blockchain will be substituted by them. We had a techie guy that basically has some problem with Hashgraph. I forgot exactly what it is. I think it's going to be in your future, but I don't think it's going to be as big and splashy as everyone says it is. I think it's been overhyped. I think it's going to be a good thing that will just quietly operate in the background that most people aren't even aware of. But I certainly don't think it's sexy when you really look at what it's actually going to be doing. It's really kind of like a back office operational thing. It's a money saver. It just streamlines things and makes them more efficient. So I'm surprised it's gotten as much headline as it has, but I think it's probably going to become unpopular because you have a very hard time finding people who are making money with blockchain. People forget about it. And then the big banks who have already gotten patents on a lot of blockchain technology are just going to quietly integrate it and increase their margins. So I think the purists, again, are going to be upset that got hijacked by big business. But I think it's going to be a part of our lives, but I don't think it's going to be a big headliner.